Hi, how are you? My name is Leah. I'm a life and relationship transition coach and the founder of Life Remade. And today I wanted to talk about something that's really been it's been a common theme for all my clients. And I coach people through life and relationship transitions, meaning there's internal transitions that are happening, um, as far as like self-esteem, self-worth, mental health. There's transitions in the form of career shifts or divorce, breakups. We're all going through transitions at all times in our lives because change is constant. But one of the things that many people do not consider in the midst of change is that the things that we see outside of us that need changing are directly impacted and influenced by the emotional health or lack thereof that we have. And so part of my coaching really focuses on emotional health and what that looks like. And it's important to focus on this, I believe, because so many misconceptions are out there about what truly is emotionally healthy and what isn't. A lot of people look at, anxiety or feeling a sense of anger as like being emotionally unhealthy. Well, I'm here to sort of give you an alternative perspective on what actually is contributing to some of these things and what actually would be considered emotionally healthy. Um, so, this is maybe going to push the envelope a little bit for those of you who consider emotional health to be similar to maybe how your parents saw emotional health. And, everything always being fine and just being happy all the time. But um, I'm here to sort of educate and hopefully also, maybe bring about some reflection for yourself that you can look at as well, because this was definitely something that I have had to learn over the years, through my career and also just as an individual. So I'm going to start with saying what emotional health is not. So when someone is experiencing a difficult emotion, such as anger, for instance, or anxiety, or maybe they're feeling a sense of depression. Now, this doesn't go for like a clinically depressed person. Um, this is just when depression is sort of showing up as a result of maybe a situation. So, situational depression and clinical depression are very different in nature. Um, but feelings like sadness, inability to like be motivated and do things, maybe an overwhelming sense of fear or anxiety or anger, or I feel like you get what I'm saying. So these difficult emotions that we label in society as difficult, what emotional health is not is when you have those emotions come up, when you have these experiences come up, not asking more questions about it, or trying to just say you need to buckle up and um, you know put it in its own little separate container and lock it away. Emotional health is not avoiding those emotions. Emotional health is not invalidating those emotions as not real or inadequate or not worth looking at or maybe even wrong. Emotional health is not when you put on a mask that everything is okay when it's not. That's actually a very malnourished, unhealthy way of being human and having a human emotional experience. That's what stands us apart, right? We're not robots. We're not different types of animals that may not have emotions. We're human. We are gifted with our emotions, and that means the full spectrum of them deserves to exist. So when we look at difficult emotions with a sense of judgment, um, or with a sense of not wanting to acknowledge those emotions, or saying, just lock them away and never talk about them again. A lot of people call that, um, what is it? Not categorizing, sort of just like putting things in a box. So a lot of people take pride in their ability to be able to put things in boxes and like push them away and shove them away. Again, like very unhealthy, very malnourished. What emotional health is not is also um, being super reactive to our world. So, like when you have anger show up, punching a wall, or when you have feelings of insecurity show up, trying to control everyone around us, or when you have feelings of frustration, making it everyone else's fault. Those are very reactive, emotionally immature, and unhealthy, destructive patterns. So these are all things that maybe you've experienced. I feel like at some point in our lives, we are emotionally immature, as as children commonly are, where they're really reactive to their environments, or they think that there's no space for them to feel their feelings. Um, but at some point, we have to grow past that. At some point, there's part of life calls us forward and says, this isn't all there is. You can't operate as a child emotionally forever and expect for there to be the same level of connection throughout your life. So now I hope that all made sense, and I kind of wanted to give those examples because I think a lot of times we directly mistake emotional immaturity for emotional health, and it's not. Um, so, emotional health, let's get started there. This is going to start with, I have a little whiteboard over here that I wrote my bullet points on, so I'm just going to be referring over here. Um, I, this starts with acknowledgement. So, as I mentioned before, like sweeping things under the rug, dismissing things, um, being, putting things in boxes and like putting them away to never be dealt with. That is the opposite of that is acknowledgement. And what I mean by acknowledgement is just simply saying, I'm angry right now, and here's why. Or I'm frustrated right now, and here's why. Or or if you see someone else who is, full of anxiety or feeling depressed, just asking them, I see that you're depressed. Why is that? I see that you're feeling sad. Why? Or if you understand why and you don't need them to explain it, maybe noticing like it's really hard to be in the position that you're in where you don't feel like you have um your needs being met. It makes sense why you would feel angry, sad, frustrated, depressed, anxious, right? I see that you're really struggling in your job right now. That makes sense that you're upset. So being able to acknowledge is the first step and sign of emotional health and emotional maturity. You would be so surprised, or maybe not surprised. You would be surprised, I would imagine, at how many people cannot acknowledge this, and have this first step of emotional health, which is just pure permission to just be. Acknowledge, here it is. I see that. I'm reflecting that back to you. I hear you. I'm listening, right? The second step is compassion. So, compassion for others and self compassion looks like when you're in that acknowledgement phase, taking it a step further and saying, oh, I'd feel the same way in that position. Or, oh, it makes total sense why you're feeling frustrated. I can understand that. I've maybe been there. Or if I were to be in your shoes, I'd probably feel the same way, type of thing. So being able to say, your feelings are being acknowledged, and you're not alone in that. Your feelings are being acknowledged, and here's full permission to feel that way. Or your feelings are being acknowledged, and I'm going to be in this with you. I'm going to feel this with you. I'm going to, if you're upset about this thing, then I'm going to, fully tell you that I would feel the same way, and let's sit in that feeling for a little bit together. So really having an extra level of awareness to where you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is so healthy, and it's so hard for people to do. When you're feeling emotionally healthy towards yourself and that level of compassion towards self is hitting, what that would look like is saying to yourself those words, or that internal dialogue of, well, right now I feel frustrated because X, Y, and Z, acknowledge, and it makes sense for me to feel that way. Compassion, right? Self compassion. The third sign of emotional health is responding rather than reacting. So when I was naming what wasn't emotionally healthy, I referred to reaction, right? And having an inability to sort of like distance yourself from the emotion. So acknowledging and having compassion is actually a way to create a little distance between yourself and the emotion. It's labeling it and saying, oh, I see that for what it is. That makes sense. And then the compassion is allowing yourself to I have that for a moment. It's not saying I am always like this. It's saying this is what I'm currently experiencing, and I'm allowed. With responding rather than reacting, you take that permission to feel, and then you ask yourself, what do I need right now? What is it that could help? How can I attend to this experience for myself? Or if you're feeling it towards someone else, what do they need right now? What would I need if I was in their shoes, and then give that to them? So instead of reacting, like I mentioned, punching a hole in the wall if you're angry, the process would look like, if you were to be more responsive rather than reactive, the process would look like you saying, ooh, I'm feeling angry in this moment. Well, it makes sense because um, I'm not getting my needs met, and I deserve for them to be. So, of course, I'd be feeling angry right now. What do I need in this moment? I probably need to go take a walk and give myself what I need. If I'm not getting my needs met elsewhere, either maybe I need to meet them for myself better, or maybe I need to communicate that more clearly, or maybe I need to remove myself from this situation or relationship or job or whatever it is that's hurting you, or that's making you angry. Anger is one of the most catalyzing emotions because it's actually there to help you get out of a situation that isn't right for you, that feels hurtful, that feels unsafe, or that feels controlling, or what have you. So anger is a really valid emotion, and it's there to keep you safe. So if we don't listen to it, we can continue to find ourselves in situations that are damaging to our emotions or damaging to our mental health or physical health, really. And then the final thing is learn from this experience and use it to grow. So when you have emotional health, you're always looking for the lesson. You're always looking for how this can make you stronger, help you grow, push you further, make you wiser. There's always something there that you can take away that's going to help to make you bigger. And so if you're looking at your life through that lens and you're saying, ooh, I'm angry right now, what do I need to in order to be responsive to this feeling? Um, and what's my takeaway next time this happens? How can I use this to never be in this situation again? How can I use this to strengthen my relationships going forward? How can I use this to find a career that really feels good for me? How can I use this to build my self esteem and draw better boundaries? Um, there's always something in there. And I don't want this to be like the go to in terms of like, oh, well, just learn your lesson from whatever struggle it is that you're going through. It's a lot harder to find the lessons in life sometimes, especially in the more painful situations. So this is in no way saying like, you know you should emotionally bypass your grief or anger or anything to find the lesson, or that you should tell someone else to find the lesson. This is more an internal thing. If you're experiencing something that is challenging you, emotionally healthy approaches will look like you seeking out the lesson at the end of the day in order to grow. This doesn't look like if your friend or someone you love is hurting, to tell them, well, what did you learn from this? That can be pretty condescending and pretty um, unhelpful, and also uncompassionate. So leave that for the person to grow from, to know and grow from. Leave that to the person to decide whether or not they want to extract a lesson there. That's up to their own emotional health. Um, so acknowledge, compassion, respond instead of react, and learn in order to grow. What's the lesson there? These are all habits of emotionally healthy people. Notice that in none of what I said is there any numbing. Is there any running away from? Is there any sweeping under the rug or lack of acknowledgement or invalidating? All of it's valid. It's valid because it's a feeling. It's true because you're experiencing it. Just because it might be something that is different from what someone else is experiencing in the same situation, or maybe that they've experienced in the past, doesn't make it wrong. Your truth is what you are experiencing, and you have every right to have that for yourself. So don't let anyone tell you different, and please don't tell anyone different. If their experience is different from yours, then what needs to happen is for you to put yourself in their shoes, not for you to tell them that they're wrong because it's different from you. um, I hope this was helpful. And I wanted to be really clear about this because it's something that I know people find to be difficult a lot of times in their lives, and to try and figure out, like, well, what is healthy and what isn't, because the society and the way I was raised maybe were telling me one thing, but really it's just feeling worse and worse as time goes on. Um, so try this on in terms of four steps that you can take, and maybe set it up as a process and write those words down somewhere you can see, so that you know how to sort of move through this with acknowledgement, compassion, responsiveness instead of reaction, and then finding a lesson in order to grow. Sending you so much love and strength as you move through whatever you're going through. um, Life is hard sometimes, and we could all use a little more emotional health in the midst of what it is that's coming up for us. So, sending that to all of you. Much love.